Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
There's a teaser in the readings today, and that's that reading from Acts. It just sort of pops out of a long story, and if you don't know the story, what's happening there is not as sort of amazing as it was for them when they first experienced it. Because the disciples and the early followers of Jesus were all Jews. And they understood that this new covenant had been given so that they might be fulfilled. That Jesus had all that we heard in the gospel today, this commandment that I give you, that you should love one another as I have loved you. That was all spoken to an inner circle, to people who came out of the Jewish community. And Jesus was telling them about how they were to proceed in their life beyond his resurrection. And this week we anticipate the ascension. So this is the last sort of event that we're hearing in this season before he ascends. And the portion that we heard from Acts is a really interesting story about how their understanding of what Jesus was commissioning them to do was shifted dramatically. So let me tell you some of the background. You probably know this story already, but I'll just remind you of what it was. So there's a guy named Cornelius, and he was a Gentile leader. He was an officer. And he was also somebody who was of faith. He was a seeker. And he got visited by an angel. And the angel said to him, send for Peter, the man who's called Simon Peter. He's over in Joppa, and he's staying with a guy named Simon the Tanner. And you'll find him there. Go and get him, because I've got a message for you that he can bring you. So you know Simon Peter, the man who denied Jesus 3 times. Well, he's up on a roof, staying with Simon the Tanner, and he's hungry. He's up on the roof and he's hungry. And he's made it known that he's hungry, so someone's gone to make him a meal. But he's up on the roof and he goes into a trance. So is this like a hunger-induced trance? Have you ever been so hungry you start to hallucinate? It sounds like that, because what happens is he sees this great sheet coming down in front of him, and there are all these animals born on this sheet, and he hears a voice saying, "Peter, get up, eat." And he says, "Oh no, I won't eat those because they're all unclean animals." He's a good Jew. He knows that these animals are forbidden for him. And the voice comes, "Peter, if I've said it's clean, you can eat it. Get up, eat." And he says, "No, these are unclean animals." He does it 3 times. And then the sheet goes up away from him. He never gets up to eat. And just as that stops, the people from Cornelius have shown up at the door. And a voice tells him, "Get up and go downstairs, because there are men here that you need to respond to." And so he gets up, goes downstairs, and he greets these people, hears why they're there, he invites them in and offers them hospitality. And they stay with him and Simon the Tanner and Simon the Tanner's family overnight. And then the next day, Peter gets up and goes to Cornelius. And he takes a bunch of people with him from the community, this inner circle that understands that Jesus has come and he's set the Jewish people free. He's fulfilled everything. He's given them a new commission. But it's outside of their understanding that they would actually go to a Gentile household. And they go to Cornelius, and it's not just Cornelius and his family, but he's filled the place up with all sorts of other people who are inquiring. And they're all Gentiles, uncircumcised. That'd be us. Gentile people. And while he's there speaking, the Holy Spirit falls just as it did on the day of Pentecost. And that's what we heard today. They start speaking in tongues, proclaiming the works of God. And Peter says, well, we should baptize them. So they do. And that's the first time that people outside of the Jewish community are brought into an understanding of Jesus as the Christ, as the Anointed One. And Peter gets in trouble. Because Peter goes, they hear about this back in Jerusalem, where the leadership is gathered. And they're all like, what is this that Peter's done, this outlier, this rebel? He's gone and baptized Gentiles. Get him in here. So he goes into account for himself. And of course, as the man that's denied Jesus 3 times, he's a suspect. And he goes in and he tells him the whole story just as I told it to you. And you can read it because he just rehearses the whole thing again. And he says, well, here's what happened. I was up on the rooftop and blah, 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 blah. And they go, God has acted. Something new is happening. God's opened up the way for all people. That's how it happened that you and I can be here as followers of Jesus. Because originally it was just sort of God's chosen people, the people who had inherited the idea that God's work was only for them, the 12 tribes of Israel. And then it gets broken out. And you know, in those of you who've been reading Acts as part of the Bible study that's been going on since Lent, that you see how it spreads all through the Mediterranean. And Paul starts building up churches all over, but they're all churches not of the Jewish people, but of Gentiles. And it all starts right here with this place in this portion of Acts, where Peter is commissioned to show God's love to the Gentile people through Cornelius' household. So what does that say for us in terms of what we're sort of locked into in our mind and our understanding? How much do we hold firm in terms of the boundaries of God's love? How far-reaching is God's love? Do we set limits on it ourselves? Do we go, he's gone this far, but no further? Is God a he? Do we consider that maybe we don't have we don't know exactly what the boundaries of God's love are? And that we need to sort of hold again ourselves in sort of expectation in prayer, in hospitality, and in being aware that we don't know everything about God's love yet. That God's love continues to evolve in terms of what shows up in our lives as being an expression of God's love. In terms of God's love reaching out to people and to situations and circumstances that we've held as being outside the bounds. We've experienced that within our denomination. We've experienced it here in terms of new people being brought into the love of God. People that we might have thought, probably not. But then, God's moving. God's moving. And bringing God's love into a fuller and richer expression for all of us individually and for all of us corporately as well. So, think about the ways in which you might set a limit on God's love. How far can it go? Who are the people we've decided are outside? Because God seems to be moving to make the outsiders insiders and to be bringing into the fold those that we've decided are not part of the chosen group. So think again if you've decided who is not chosen, because God may be moving to bring them in.